Welcome back to the channel, guys, and today we're going to talk about helmets. We get a lot of questions. A lot of it's just what kind of night vision are you running, what kind of ear pro are you running, tell me about your helmet. So we're going to get into all the things that go into picking a helmet, why you should pick a certain kind, certain brands, certain benefits, advantages, disadvantages, some of the experiences that I've had with different brands and different setups, what I would recommend. Ultimately, you guys can go ahead and obviously make those decisions for yourselves, but wanted to talk through how I have my lid set up and how I got to this point right here. So let's jump in. So talking about this helmet setup right here, this is my Team Wendy bump helmet. Now, it's important to understand we're talking about helmets. There's two kinds you can be looking at. One is a ballistic helmet, which is usually a lot more expensive. It provides ballistic protection, hence the name, right? So some of them offer protection for handgun rounds. Some of them will offer some level of protection for rifle rounds. It is a bit more difficult to understand on the helmet side with ratings because there isn't officially an NIJ scale for helmets. So you can see stuff advertised as level 3, whatever, for ballistic helmets. Just know that that's not always the case. That may not always be what you're getting, at least not with the cheaper brands. Now, as with all things, you usually do get what you pay for, and I do recommend, with the limited amount of experience I've had, to stick to the big boys, which would be either OpsCore, or I guess Gentex is part of the OpsCore family, I think. Maybe not, I could be wrong. Or Team Wendy, and I went with Team Wendy. This is actually a Team Wendy bump helmet. So when we talk about bump helmet, that means it protects you not from ballistic things, but from bumpy things. So hitting your noggin against a tree, or falling down, or somebody trying to, I don't know, hit your dome with a baseball bat. Bump helmets are usually made out of a hard shell, right? And they do that. They just protect your head. They're a little bit lighter, and they are definitely a lot cheaper. A lot of guys go this route. So you can run night vision. You can mount your night vision on the front of it. So whether you're, running a PVS-14, a single tube, you're running dual tubes, which we'll get into night vision here in a bit. A lot of guys just get a bump helmet because the cheapest way, short of a poor decision in a cheap skull crusher or something, or I guess a more poor decision in an expensive skull crusher, and you need something to run your night vision. So bump helmets, I used to run a Hardhead Veterans, full disclosure. I did buy this Team Wendy one. Nobody gave this to me, although it would have been great if they did. I opted for Team Wendy for a couple of reasons. One, because they're a very recognized name in the market. Two, is because of this retention system you guys can see back here, okay? Their BOA retention system is, I think, very highly regarded in the industry as probably the top and most comfortable option. What it does is basically once you get the helmet on your noggin, that little knob in the back, you twist that and it will tighten incrementally to your head, giving you not only stability, but some added comfort. One of the biggest problems that I had running the Hardhead Veterans, which a lot of guys like the HHV stuff, it's not a knock. I just didn't care for it because I could never get their stacked padding system to work for me. And I know they have some other options. At the time, when I bought the Hardhead Veterans, it was about $100 cheaper than the Team Wendy, so I went with it. Didn't have great experiences for a number of reasons. The biggest one was the fitment. I would get hot spots or like pressure headaches and things at the front of my head when running night vision, and I could never get it to fit the way that this Team Wendy lid has basically fit me right out of the box. So I do really, really recommend Team Wendy. I know Josh runs OpsCore. He has their new bump they just released, and he really likes it. He's run a couple different kinds of helmets. He likes the OpsCore stuff. A lot of guys like OpsCore. It's just because with Team Wendy and OpsCore, you're getting the two biggest names, which means you're getting the largest access possible on the market to accessories that can help you go from basically a stock helmet to kind of what you're seeing here today. So to give you guys the backstory on this, I basically purchased this once I got my dual tubes. I was running a PVS-14, and and once I got the dual tube setup, which we'll get to in a second here, immediately noticed when I put the tubes on that the whole helmet leaned forward. Now, yes, someone's going to say, why didn't you run a counterweight? Well, I did run a counterweight, and if you guys look here, I have a counterweight on this helmet as well. The problem was more with the retention system and the fitment on my head, which, like I've been saying here, Team Wendy does an awesome job, and I love the fit. But I had the hard head veterans, and once I had a more expensive set of nods, which, full disclosure, were sent to me by Custom Night Vision. So shout out if you guys are looking to get into night vision, you can check out customnightvision.com. They've been a great supporter of the podcast and the channel here, and they have a ton in stock and a bunch of resources and team members there to help you guys make a great purchase. So once they sent out my 1431s, just did not feel comfortable putting those on a hardhead veterans helmet. A lot about the setup was different at the time, but I immediately put that on and decided that that wasn't quite right for me. And again, the biggest part of that was the suspension system here. I will say I do miss the magnetic coupling that they had for their chin strap on hardhead veterans, but basically everything else, I was okay moving away from it. The first thing worth talking about here is just this rail system that you can see on the side of the helmet. And with hardhead veterans, it was an M-lock, which made it a little bit more difficult, not super difficult, but just a little bit more to get ear pro mounts. Now, if you're gonna run ear protection on a helmet, I think it's cool. I think you should do it. You don't have to necessarily run communications. You can just mount your ear pro. Understand, you don't have to, all right? For almost a couple years there, I believe, Josh was actually running neckband Peltors, not Peltors, I'm sorry. He was running neckband ear pro Sordens under his helmet because it fit, and that way he didn't need to buy excess mounting, and it worked really well for him. I know Lucas from TRX Arms also prefers that. I went the outside the helmet mounting option, and these are the 3M mounts that will click in and click out. So you can pop these off and pop them in when you're ready to mount them to your ear. When you want to take the helmet out, you can pop those back and swing them up and stow them out of position there to take the helmet off. Originally, I was told, and I didn't know any better, by a buddy who had spent some time in as a TAC P in the Air Force, that you didn't want the models that popped out because with things like breaching and shooting, they would pop out when you didn't want them to. And I think I've only ever had 2 people really mention that to me as an actual concern. So at the time, I didn't know any better. I went for the Unity mounts that would keep consistent pressure on the side of my head. And I was running Walker's razors, right? Because those will work. They will fit on the mounts. The problem is they don't fit the absolute tightest. If you're going to do that, I would recommend this little wire here on either of the mounts. If you're using Walker's, I would wrap it with electrical tape, make sure a very tight fit. I had a problem where these would actually, the ear pro would pull off, and then this metal fork here would stab me in the side of the head. So lesson learned there, really, really pays to not go the cheapest route, or if you are, to do some heavy research into how to make that work for you. So when I got the Team Wendy bump here, first thing I did was decide I was going to get better mounts, and these are the ones specifically made for the Team Wendy rails by 3M for the Peltor Comtacs. So obviously they run on both sides. You can see the cable here runs. I have it retained above my counterweight pouch. I did modify it, or I should say update my counterweight setup. I went from just a basic counterweight pouch across the back to this Mohawk style one. This is not a real Mohawk. You guys can shame me in the comment section. But I didn't at the time have the extra $90, so this was like 20 bucks, and I was able to pick that up on Amazon, and it's worked absolutely great. Opens on both ends with Velcro, and a little placard pulls out where you have counterweights and then extra batteries. So I keep my batteries in there, and I think I have 3 weights, and that is enough. Between that and the retention system of the helmet, keeps everything secure, keeps it where I want to be. Now, when I got this, I was running Walkers on it because that's what I had. The upgrade to the Peltor Comtac 3s, I got these on a really good sale through Optics Planet, and I mean, they're Comtac 3s, they're not the newest, latest, greatest, but they do work really well. And if you guys are listening to this and you're thinking, well, ear pro is ear pro is ear pro, I would highly encourage you to go find a friend that has some better ear pro and try theirs out. When I ran Josh's Sordens, compared to the Walkers that I was running, the sound quality was night and day. And especially if you're trying to get into, you know, playing with radios and things and trying to run communications, it'll be a real benefit for you if you get some better quality ear pro, because you're just going to hear better, you're going to have a better time. Pick these up. I did have to replace all of the styrofoam bits on it because I think they were just dry rotting from age, because we're on, like, I don't know, the Comtac 7s now, at any rate. So moved up to better ear pro, and so let's talk let's talk a little bit about setup here. Starting at the front, we'll work our way to the back. The night vision mount is where a lot of guys really start to have questions, because it seems like there are so few options out there on the market where you can realistically spend what many would say is a reasonable amount of money and get good performance. This, I think, this is my opinion, is the solution here, is the Argus lightweight night vision mount, or the LWNVM. It looks and functions very, very similarly, if not completely similarly, to the Wilcox G24. It has the longer fork here, so you can move the night vision closer and further away from your face. It locks into the Wilcox mounts all the same way. By all analysis on my end, it is exactly like the G24, but the tolerances are much tighter, and it's skeletonized, so it's probably an ounce, maybe 2 ounces lighter, which isn't a bad thing. Both Josh and I are running these. Josh is actually the one who turned me on to this, and then I spent like 2 months trying to hunt to find one in stock, and when I did, I ordered it. It was like $150. No issues with this. No failures, no problems. This is an absolutely outstanding mount for $150, especially when you consider guys are running PVS 14s. Like my original setup was a Wilcox G24 fake mount for like $100 off Amazon, like an airsoft clone with a Noise Fighters, was it the AX14, their J arm, and that worked really well off a recommendation from a buddy. Moved up to this mount shortly after and never really looked back. So again, this is the Argus LWNVM. It's been absolutely outstanding, and I really do recommend you guys checking it out. I've seen one person online post where they had a failure. And there was no follow-up indicating if they tried to reach out to Argus for warranty work or how they broke it. In fact, as I recall, the story was rather ambiguous about how they broke it, which means they were probably trying to break it, succeeded, and then decided to sit there and call the product complete trash. But everyone else I've talked to loves these things, has had outstanding experiences, way less rattle and wiggle, no shimming with tape or anything between the helmet and the mount itself. Looking at the helmet proper here, you'll see this is actually the Team Wendy helmet cover. Our group runs Ranger Green with our gear and our kit and everything, so wanted Ranger Green as a helmet option. They don't make a Ranger Green for the helmet with Team Wendy. They make black, and they make flat dark earth. So bought the helmet cover. I will say, if you're going with Team Wendy, you're going to pay for the helmet cover. I think this was like $90. Which hurts, but at the same time, there aren't a bunch of other companies out there making alternative options. I know OpsCore has a lot of options out there, from the cheap airsoft ones to, I think Agilite makes covers, to I think OpsCore makes their own covers, obviously. Team Wendy, not as many options, but this is a really good cover. It's made very well, really good stitching. It adheres in all the right places with the Velcro that's on the helmet, and I've had absolutely no problems, no complaints with this. And I actually use the surface stitched Velcro for several attachments. If you guys look here on this side, this is the Very Arc mount from Theorem that I attached a Streamlight ProTac light to. It's only about 350 lumens, and got a little pushy cap, tail cap on the back here. And of course, the 100 Concepts light cap up on the front. This is basically just for administrative tasks when we're doing some kind of CQB practice or things out in the range, but especially CQB when you're in a very dark building or structure. You can turn this straight up and you can umbrella with this. I get it, it's not completely vertical, it's not a perfect solution. The S&S Precision mount is a much better one, but I had the light laying around, and the Very Arc system cost about $40. And it comes to either a Picatinny section or a Scout mount section like what I used here, and it simply attaches by Velcro to the side of the helmet cover here. I've never had any issues with it coming loose, coming off, anything. In fact, I thought when I had to take it off the first time that I was going to rip the stitching on the helmet cover because of how strong the Velcro that comes on the mount is. So really, really good product for the money, honestly. I like a lot of what Theorem does, but this is, in my opinion, this is a great budget-minded option if you really need, something mounted to the side of the helmet. Now on the other side here, I did take the Princeton Tech, I think it's like a fabric mount or a hat clip mount, and dremeled off the edges to make it smooth, and slide it and force it back behind this laser cut section on the mount, and mounted a Princeton Tech light here, which is in red. So one of the things that you can do with your task lights is get them in red for low light and no light situations. It's just a little bit less intrusive, a little bit more low profile. A lot of guys run these on their helmets and really, really like them. I've had great luck with this. Moving to the back of the helmet here. Again, this isn't a real Mohawk, but it is basically the Mohawk. It Velcros on completely. I do like the Team Wendy has this retention bungee that comes out the back that I kind of just clip to the bottom of the helmet, and that keeps everything in place. I have some one wrap loops that are attached to the bottom that help retain the plug for my push to talk that runs on my plate carrier. I have an IR flag patch here for funsies. And then talking about strobe, this is, I forget the model number. They actually don't make this specific model anymore from Nightcore. It Velcros on, and it's got little clips here that I run the bungees through on the sides. But what I like about this is you can actually just pop this off, and you can see there's a tab in the back. So this will actually USB plug in and recharge. I know a lot of guys like the Unity ones that you just Velcro on. When they die, you throw them away, and it's 20 bucks a pop. This on Amazon was like 30 bucks, and it's rechargeable. I've had this since I had my first bump helmet. This is almost 4 years old. And it does visible, it does strobing, it does IR, it does everything you need, and it's got a little clip on the back too if you needed to put it on like a shirt collar or a belt or a vest or whatever, if you're into running your strobes for different purposes and different reasons. And I do recommend, if you're running nighttime stuff, whether you're just playing on the range or whatever. We did a nighttime shoot event at the HTA range day in September, and having the strobe where you're just able to click it a couple times, turn it on, was really, really beneficial. Now, talking about the front of the helmet and the mount, right? Night vision. So let's talk about night vision for a second. So this, again, shout out to Custom Night Vision. This is the night vision I'm currently running. This is a set of, these are 1431s. So people think 31s, they usually think the L3 version, the 31 alphas. This is a very, very similar housing from Argus in Canada. So it's not the Chinese one, it's the Canadian one that then gets sent to Custom Night Vision where they do their QC process, and it's got some Elbit pH tubes in there, which aren't super great, but for me, they're actually amazing because I don't have a ton. I am actually enamored with them. They're very well performing tubes for me. They're 2,000 plus FOM, or figure of merit for those of you guys that don't know what FOM is. And they work great. It takes a AA battery up front here, which I just keep in the counterweight pouch at the back. It doesn't, in case anyone's needing to know or wondering, it doesn't actually require any additional hardware. Like a PVS-14 will require a J-arm to mount from the goggle itself to the mount. This, because it's a bino mount, or bino goggles I should say, it doesn't require anything. It has the dovetail built into the top. And there are additional options. You can see there's a screw in the top there, so if you needed something that sat lower just for your specific use or preferences, you can actually take that off and get a offset dovetail mount. But these are really easy to use. They have a lot of features for the money. And you can see on the front here, these are the aperture caps from 100 Concepts. We did a video on these not too long ago, and they're an outstanding solution. I'm hoping that they're able to get to market soon, because I know a lot of people are looking forward to them. When you're running night vision, something like this helps a lot because you can control how much light comes in and out, which usually you have to play with your gain and stuff like that. But if you don't want to mess with your gain all the time and being adjusting the front lens to focus, having something like this to control light in and out is really, really nice. The one thing I did add on to here on the back is two little loops of zip tie. There are little loops here. If you're using OpsCore or Team Wendy, they have small metal claws to clip in for retention, and retention is really important. But the Team Wendy ones are large plastic clips, which are easier to use but not as convenient on the housings. So I put these loops of zip ties in here so that when we go ahead and have to retain our night vision, you can use these large plastic clips that come on the Team Wendy helmet. We can get this apart here. It stays up here, which is great when I don't want it down, but fighting with it. This is why staging your kit in advance is extremely beneficial. Okay, so you have these pieces of shock cord and plastic clips here, and what I do is as soon as I mount my night vision onto the helmet, then you'll see these little clips will then reach forward and they will clip into the housing like this. And on the other side, exact same thing here. They clip in. All right, and that way, should my mount break away, this is a breakaway mount, so that if something catches, it's not gonna catch and break your neck or anything. It'll tear away the whole unit, but that way, even if you get hit in the face with your gear here, you're not losing your several $1,000 night vision unit. There are other options, there are other solutions. I know some that kind of wrap themselves around the bridge between the binos, and then you can Velcro that to the top, which I might honestly look into. I know Duffy, John Dufresne over at Kinetic, he has a really cool option that works exactly like that, and it basically means it'll work with any night vision unit as long as you can do a pull through and have Velcro on the top of your helmet, which any helmet, even the cheap airsoft ones, they all have Velcro on the top, so you can then retain that way. Retention is really important. We all spend a lot of money on our night vision, or somebody did if you're renting or borrowing. So so this is kind of where I ended up today. It's a great option. I know it's not ballistic, it's a bump helmet, but it's a great option. It's very comfortable, very effective, and you know, hopefully this helps you guys. If you have questions on why helmets are set up the way they are, I get that question a lot from my friends that see my content who aren't gun people. Like, why do you need a helmet? Night vision, you know, or why do you need, you know, the headset to talk to my friends while doing night vision things, you know? So all of it has a purpose. There's certainly more that you could put on helmets. I know a lot of people, instead of running counterweights, will run battery packs. I don't have a battery pack. I've not yet really found that I'm burning through batteries at an excessive rate to where a battery pack makes sense. So I haven't really explored into that. It's a couple $100 that I've just saved myself. I know there's options out there now that come with the battery packs, and there's becoming at least some level of standardization in the industry on the plug system that runs from the night vision goggle itself around your helmet to your battery pack. So you could certainly put more on here, but kind of like we talked about with all of our gear, if you don't need it, don't put it on here. You know, everything that I have on here has a purpose, and I've used it before, and it has a reason for being there. And I've certainly taken some stuff off, things like extra patches, things like you know, extra chem light holders and things like that. If you don't need it, don't put it on there. It's just going to be extra crap that you don't need to worry about. So hopefully this helps you guys understand and answer some questions about the kind of setup that I'm running on the helmet. So truthfully, you guys will benefit from running a helmet. If you are interested in your own development, having a bump helmet, I mean, we ride bikes, we rollerblade, we do all kinds of stuff, and we wear helmets. We play sports, pretty much all your major sports now, right? They wear helmets for protection. If somebody tells you you're wasting your money on a bump, it's not true. Now, I will say you need to appropriately prioritize for a helmet setup. So if you're buying a bump helmet, I would say think about what else you need. If you are trying to run communications, if you're trying to run night vision, then it's a great option. A ballistic helmet is also a great option if it's in your budget, but again, prioritize. We talk a lot about some of this stuff like communications, and yes, you need a helmet if you're gonna run, you know, communications that way, off the lid. But if you don't have anybody to talk to, why are you investing in communications? It's a great capability, but is it the best priority, the best utilization of your resources at that time? That's really what a lot of these conversations come down to. So hopefully what I shared here with you guys today on my setup and my experiences and how I've added and changed some things and some brands I've gone through, some money I've spent that I wasn't necessarily always able to recoup, hopefully that answers your questions and can give you guys some additional guidance on what you're going to do with your own setup.